What's going on, guys? Wanted to fire the camera up, give you a quick update on where I'm at with the CNC build before I call it a night. Posted a couple little clips on Instagram, and I mentioned maybe going into a little bit more detail on the trials and errors of this facing process. So that's where we're at now. For those who maybe don't follow me on Instagram, I did just finish. This was my first CAM program that I've ever written, and kind of the first time ever hitting a cycle start on a machine. So that was kind of its own experience. A little bit nerve-wracking, not exactly, fully trusting everything just yet. I've still got to do a little bit of homework on how Mach 3 interacts with Fusion, or how this G-code's getting put out. Maybe how I selected some things in Fusion, or maybe some of the default settings there, but I'm a little bit confused at how some things responded as far as the zeroing of the machine in a couple places, and just how the machine itself kind of traveled. I won't really get into too much detail on that right now, just to say that I do need to do some more homework there, and kind of be sure I know exactly what's going on before I do too much more with other projects. But as I said, there was some trial and error. For one, I made about the most rookie mistake a guy can make, and I'm a little embarrassed even to admit this, but in all the excitement of wiring this machine together, I never did verify the rotation of the spindle, that it was turning in a clockwise direction when in forward rotation, or what the controller sees as forward. My spindle was actually running backwards, and I didn't catch that until a couple cycles in, making some relatively deep passes of about 10 to 20 thousandths on some high spots here. I was getting a pretty rough cut. Things were kind of bogging down, which really surprised me given that this is about a 3-horse spindle in VFD. And I kind of got to thinking about it and realized, I never did check rotation, and sure enough, I was running backwards. So, again, a very rookie mistake. I'm kind of ashamed to admit, but like I said, I've had a lot on my mind with the excitement of getting this machine together. And, sometimes we overlook things. Not only that, I also overlooked that I was actually bottoming my Z-slide out as I was trying to go another 20 thou deeper. Obviously the DRO was telling me, hey, you're going 20 thou, but I didn't realize that I was already bottomed out and was not physically hitting that 20 thousandths lower depth. So I fixed that just by lowering the bit and the collet. Now I do have some more adjustment with my drop plate. I did end up making a drop plate for this, which is quite versatile as far as the different heights. You can see a couple different kinds of holes here, a set of counterbore holes and just a set of tapped quarter 20 holes. The counterbores are for mounting in whichever position I'd like to on the bearing plate itself. Then the straight tapped holes are for mounting the bracket itself. And I've also got some more wiggle room up or down just with the spindle inside the bracket. So lots of adjustment there. As it sits now, I don't think I'll need to move it, especially once I get this final layer in place. And that kind of brings me to the next step. Well, one more trial and error I will mention. I did end up crashing pretty good. After I took my initial pass, got everything cut and right, I wanted to take one more light skim pass because there were some low spots on that end that I didn't quite get out. I zeroed the machine, did a Z0 command on the MDI, I think it's MDI settings screen. Let's see what this is here. Yeah, MDI or Alt-2. If you do Z0 and hit enter, wherever you previously had your Z-axis or your spindle zeroed, as far as the height, it'll go back to that point. Well, somehow in between, I think restarting a machine or reloading a program, I I ended up losing my reference somehow, or was off, or maybe I forgot to re-zero when I lowered the bit. I'm really not sure what happened, but I did end up crashing with the spindle at full speed down into there. It actually stopped the bit, which is maybe a good thing. I was able to stop the spindle and back it out of the wood before it put a huge gouge on the corner there. So I ended up going a little bit deeper than maybe I wanted to, as far as the facing passes, just to kind of take most of that back out. But live and learn. I should have the spindle off when I was zeroing. Should have maybe used a touch plate. I will be making one of those on one of my next upcoming projects. Maybe show you guys an easy way to do that if I think about it. But at any rate, I did crash it and kind of made a little bit more work for myself. So those were kind of the trials and errors of my first cycle start, or my first cam program that I ran. Again, next step will be installing the T-track. I'm still kind of debating on how I want to do the layers in between the T-track. Initially I was going to use this 1/2 inch as a spoil board, but the more I think about it, I think the more I want to swap that out for 3/4, and then I can mount these directly to this base, put my 3/4 there, and have a little bit more wiggle room for facing that off a couple times and using these pieces as replaceable spoil boards. So we'll see. I do have a little bit of 3/4 left that I could probably do half of the machine with, although I'd have to, I think, cut it into some pieces. So we'll see. I gotta see what I got left and how long they are, and if I'm able to use what I've got or not. I may just have to go get a couple extra pieces at the hardware store. So not a huge deal, but still kind of thinking through that. So that's where we're at now. That was kind of a big step for me, getting that faced and flattened out there. I've not yet put a dial indicator on it just to verify, especially with crashing that bit like I did. There's a chance maybe I knocked something a little out of kilter. As I'm kind of running my hand across here, there is a little bit of variation maybe. Some high spots, where I can kind of catch a fingernail on very slightly. Maybe 3 or 4 thou difference. So I may want to go ahead and verify that is square one more time, and maybe even take just one more, like 10 or 20 thousandths pass. Certainly by the time I get this top layer on, I'll get that squared up perfectly, or as much as I can, and then go from there. But we are making progress, and I think we're getting very close to maybe writing up some programs, starting some projects, and seeing what this thing will do. So that's it, guys. Appreciate the views. Thanks for watching. Follow me along on this journey of mine, and stay tuned for the next one. Again, maybe we'll get a program going before it's all said and done. So that's it, guys.